1. Fragments of Silicon, where there's weather, whether or not.
Well, aren't you expecting a snowstorm there, Galix?
As much.
Yeah. Okay, well, he gets his microphone fixed. Welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon.
Sorry, is it working now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Gotta pay attention to those little details. Alright, so let's just get into the news. Well, Galix, since you have some things to take care of, why don't you go first? Did he mute his mic again?
Probably.
Sorry. So I kept accidentally hitting the button. Okay, as I indicated earlier, we had some snow yesterday, and work got called off early because it was the melty kind. And we're expecting it tomorrow, so work will probably be off tomorrow too, but we'll see how that goes. That's been kind of taking up a lot of my effort lately. Haven't had much time for video games because of that, although I look forward to playing Owlboy for review. And I don't remember what the other game is, but I'll try that too.
It's Ellipses.
Ellipses, okay. Yeah, sorry, other than that, I really haven't had that eventful of a week.
It's not necessarily a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
No, it definitely could be worse. So yeah,
Right,
I guess that's all.
Right, so, Pettyfan, you go next.
Oh, just been, playing games and stuff. I'm getting farther in Digimon World Next Order. I don't think I have any games for review this week.
Everyone got everyone got Ellipses.
Okay, then I might not. I just didn't see that one. I'll make sure I have it downloaded and give it a try before Sunday.
Yeah, I don't know how many codes we got for Owlboy, but I already had that.
Yeah, Owlboy, I think was single.
Owlboy was just the one, so...
In Final Fantasy, we almost have the section of Alexander Savage down that we've been working on since mid-December. So, hooray! Progress is being made on that. Outside of that, not a whole lot's been going on. It's been relatively quiet.
Alright, Twilight, it's your go.
Like everybody else, not much really going on around here besides the weather being spring one day and fall the next. We're supposed to get some snow tonight, but just flurries and otherwise just rain. Game-wise, been playing some of the Ellipses and Final Fantasy 14, and that's about it on my end.
Alright, I guess it's my go. Yeah, it seems to be a quiet week for all of us. I mean, it's like, biggest thing that's been going on here is I've had to do some errands for Mother because she got a stomach virus, and was
Hooray!
So having to go over to her place and do some things and get things for her because it's kind of hard to do shit when you have a stomach virus.
Mhm.
Like, apparently, she's had some real aches and pains. Like, so I think she's about recovered. So that's a good thing for multiple reasons.
Mhm.
Indeed.
Uh-huh.
Like, on the upside, I did manage to get a haircut in anticipation of spring because the weather's it's been going from cold to hot again.
Mhm.
So. But,
I need to do one of those.
Right, and let's see. We are scheduled to have an episode of MSP. Last I checked, I know it was canceled last week due to as it turns out, Mac had a lot more going on than just day job plans. But he'll talk more about that on his show. So. With that all of the way, merrily we shall roll along to the interview portion of the broadcast. And joining us for, 6 times, 5 times? I've kind of lost count.
I've lost count too. It's definitely been a few now at this point.
Enough to get the
Yeah.
free digital cookie.
Yeah.
But it's good to be back.
I think
Good
this
to
might
be back.
be. Yeah, it's like I think this is time number 6. I'd have to count, but once again, we welcome John Pickett of MangaGamer.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and so this time around, we're going to be talking about the game that you've actually been working on for, I don't know, for many, many months.
It's been about 2 since I first started working on Da Capo 3 to the time it reached completion was about 2.5 years, and then I think there was another couple months after that, just finishing up the testing and release aspects of it.
Right. So, yeah, and this is the one you've been personally involved with.
Yes.
All right. So, well, we should start by laying out what the Da Capo series is.
So the Da Capo series started way back, at least a decade ago now, with Circus, back when visual novels were sort of just kicking off in Japan. And the whole point of it is that it is more of a slice of life, romantic sort of visual novel. It's a lot of, you have your main protagonist and you have several different heroines that you can pursue, and how the route division isn't determined entirely by the choices that you make as protagonist and how to spend your day during the common route. Once it actually splits off into the individual routes with each of the heroines, the story there is a bit more linear, but there's still a couple different choices that come out. Less in Da Capo 3 than there were in Da Capo 2 on that end. But overall, it is, the strong points behind it have always been the characters, the character interactions, making it feel like you're actually sort of in the game, spending time with the heroines, spending time with the characters, and just sort of enjoying that immersion in this other world, this other life. And one of the themes for Da Capo, at least, has always been wishes, and they bring that out with the sort of dose of magic that's in the series, which is generally, well, in Da Capo 1 and 2, it's centered around the everlasting cherry blossom. But here in Da Capo 3, the series actually goes back to the past, well before the original Da Capo, and you sort of get a really more in-depth look at how magic works in the universe of Da Capo.
Right, and exactly how much interconnectivity is there between the 3 Da Capo games? Like, if you start playing Da Capo 3 R here first, how much do you need, if anything, do you need to know about Da Capo 1 or Da Capo 2?
Okay, so ultimately, every game in the Da Capo series is designed to be perfectly enjoyable as a standalone. The idea is that certain parts of the series do build on each other throughout the whole. So in terms of, say, the overall Da Capo series, you have the story of the heroine Sakura, who was originally one of the heroines in Da Capo 1. And her tale is sort of the umbrella that it's expanded on throughout the tales. But otherwise, there's absolutely no hindrance to your ability to enjoy the stories no matter where you jump in, whether it's Da Capo 1, Da Capo 2, Da Capo 3. All the heroines have their own stories, have their own dramas. The series and the games themselves have their own stories and interactions. So you can enjoy every game without any of the other games. But if you do play the other games, regardless of which ones you play, you get a little bit more information that sort of carries over and builds on the information in the other games to make it even more enjoyable.
I see. And another thing about the Da Capo series is each game is generation, correct?
Yes. The Da Capo 1 is the, if I remember right, it's Junichi and his generation with Sakura. And then in Da Capo 2, you have shoot, I'm trying to remember the hero's name, but it's you have so Nemu is one of the main heroines in Da Capo 1, and in Da Capo 2 you have what are theoretically her granddaughters with Yume and Otome. And in Da Capo 3, Da Capo 3 is a little special because the prologue of Da Capo 3, which is what's airing on the Twitch channel right now, is set after the period in Da Capo 2, about a generation or two afterwards, but it also takes place long before Da Capo 1 because the bulk of the story is set in about 1950s London.
Huh.
Yeah. And sort of the connecting tie there in Da Capo 3 is that the characters in the prologue are the reincarnations of the characters from the bulk of the game in 1950s London.
Yeah, I can see how that could get a bit chronologically confusing.
Mm-hmm.
And
then the characters of the main part of the game are Japanese, correct?
Yes. Well, yeah. So in Da Capo 1 and Da Capo 2, all the characters are Japanese. In Da Capo 3, the characters in the prologue are all Japanese. In the London chapter, you actually have a mix of characters that are studying abroad from Japan, like the main character, his sister, and a couple of other side characters. And you also have a lot of heroines that are from Europe or from England specifically, like the main heroine, Rika Greenwood. In the London chapter is actually a native to Britain, and they talk about her past and what she's been through later in her route. So.
Right, and so let's talk about the Da Capo name itself. Contrary to what people might think of, it has nothing to do with the mafia. Like, it's actually, it has much more to do with time.
Actually, you're a little...
It's a musical term, isn't it? Meaning from the top?
It is actually, the name of the series is specifically derived from the musical term back to the top, or back to the beginning, and repeat again. And that's also one of the driving designs behind the series, is that with every playthrough, with every route you go through, it builds upon itself, and you get more enjoyment out of it as you learn more about the series and learn more about the characters. So, and that's where the name really comes from, is that idea of going back, repeating, and building off over time.
Right, and Does the R stand for anything, or is it just one of those random letters that appears in titles?
So in Da Capo 3R, the R stands for renewal, because when Da Capo 3 was originally released in Japan, it was originally released as Da Capo 3, an all ages only game, a game that didn't have any adult content in it at all. And then it had several different expansions between console ports, Vita ports, that added more side stories and more depth to the game, which eventually accumulated in the re-release, which was Da Capo 3R, which combined all of the different side stories that have been developed with the main story of Da Capo 3 and added additional things like CG, the adult content, and obviously, yeah.
So it's basically the definitive
yes,
last
cut. Is the definitive version of Da Capo 3.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, speaking of the adult content, there's actually, two versions of this game published. You've got the Steam version, and then, I see on your website, you've got the X-rated cuts.
Yeah, that was exactly how Circus originally published the game in Japan as well. They had Da Capo 3R, which was still an all-ages game that could be sold to, say, a teenage audience, and then you had Da Capo 3R X-rated, which included the adult scenes.
Right, and so I suppose it begs the question: exactly how adult did the scenes get, and was there anything really important in them in the first place?
The adult scenes in Da Capo have always been very vanilla. It's a lot of, you're not really going to find the most kinky thing you'll find in the Da Capo series is maybe a foot job. More likely you'll just see blowjobs and missionary sex, things, or the girl on top kind of sex. That kind of very, very vanilla scenes. There's nothing. It's not the kind of things that you're not gonna see scene leather and whips in Da Capo. It's just not that kind of game. And so the adult scenes they very much do stick to that same theme throughout the game of being very romantic, being very intimate, and so what you miss by not seeing the scenes is really just sort of that culmination and expression of the love and intimacy that these characters have built up for each other throughout the game you've been playing. If you are a person who feels that you can live without that and doesn't find that important to you, then the all ages version is perfectly fine for you. If you want to enjoy the adult content and find that for you that adds something to the story, then definitely the adult version is better.
Makes sense. Like, although it doesn't sound like I guess Steam would still have a problem with that, or is that just more a general thing?
Yeah, Steam would probably still have difficulty with it, just because the visuals do still depict, in the adult scenes, visuals depict what you would expect to see from an adult game, and so that's where Steam would have issue with it.
I guess it's because I've found Steam to be very inconsistent on this topic, but I'm like, I can't say that they're the only ones who's ever been inconsistent when it comes to
No, there's a lot of inconsistencies around the adult industry because people don't want to give it the limelight, and they don't want to let people talk about these issues or discuss these issues or bring them to the public light. So there's a lot of issues.
Yeah.
And that can be, there's enough issues there with Steam that could really be its own podcast, I'm sure.
No doubt. I mean, it's just, this is one of the nice things about having your own show. You can talk about whatever issues you want, and nobody can stop you.
True.
But yeah, it is an unfortunate thing because I have seen adults oriented visual novels on Steam, and not even like grayscale, like like I found a free one ago that had very adult situations, and it was just there.
Yeah.
Like, so.
Well, I mean, we've managed to work with Steam to get some uncut adult games on there through Kindred Spirits and through Gokthun of the Golden Lightning. But it seems like there's still sort of a line that Steam doesn't want to cross in terms of how much is actually depicted.
Something to work on, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so in terms of DeCapo 3's story here, so you've already talked about like a London chapter, so that suggests that it's moving off the island, right?
Yes, correct. So typically the DeCapo series has taken place on Hatsune Island, which is where the everlasting cherry tree is centered. But in DeCapo 3, the bulk of the story moves to 1950s London. The characters are entering a magical academy that is basically hidden underground beneath the city of London. They enter it through Big Ben, and it's this whole sort of self-contained world that exists there under London, where all these students study magic. And of course, so that's sort of and this is the chapter in the DeCapo series where we sort of learn that in this universe, magic is very much a realization of the power that sentiments and emotions for others carries. They talk about how some of the mages that have stronger magic power, they actually have a stronger ability to empathize, to feel for others, to care for others, and to show those kind of sentiments for more people, or to show them stronger. And there's discussion in there too about how the mage's magic power actually sort of weakens as they fall in love because of how strong a sentiment love is for someone. And they talk about how it's like during sort of the infatuation phase, a lot of times the magic will go stronger because there is that sort of strong one-sided passion that they feel for another person. But as the love progresses to the stage where it's more permanent, like you would feel for a family or a wife, that love actually sort of becomes something of a permanent spell between you and the person that you share that love with, to protect each other, give each other, and a sort of general protection and good luck for each other spell. And as a result, the overall magic power and your ability to care for others decreases because you grow to have so much strong sentiments and caring for this one person. And that as you have children, that happens again. And so they talk about how a lot of mages actually do sort of lose their magic power as they find a lover, as they have a family, and as they grow older. And so that really brings back to this idea that the series has always been pushing about the strength of caring for others and working together and supporting each other in order to bring happiness to everyone that you care about.
So it sounds like emotions play a big part in the whole game here.
Yes.
And like, not gonna lie, given where the thing takes place and the premise, I'm thinking a bit of Harry Potter here too.
I definitely joked with my team during production a lot that DeCapo 3 is set in Totally Not Hogwarts.
Well, I mean, technically it isn't, because Hogwarts wasn't in London. They just got on a train in London. So,
yeah.
But so, who is the protagonist of this venture, and who are the heroines?
So the main protagonist of Da Capo 3 is Katsuragi Kiyotaka. He's someone who is adopted by the Katsuragi family. He's technically classified as a Category 4 mage, and his specialty is in dream viewing magic, the ability to view others' dreams, interact with those dreams, and he actually has some training to use that magic for the purposes of counseling others and helping others overcome their traumas, their stresses, and things like that. And he's so technically he doesn't need to be going to this school where Da Capo 3 is set, but his adopted little sister, his little sister Katsuragi Himeno, he's not blood related to, she's the actual blood daughter of the Katsuragi family that he's adopted into. She is attending this magic school in order to learn more about her own magic, which is, and her specialty is more in magic that lets her read minds and connect to the minds of others and the hearts of others and understand their thoughts and feelings. But she also has sort of a cursed destiny to bear as a result of her family bloodline. And so he's sent with her by his father in order to basically use the library that the school has and the resources they have to try and uncover a way to protect her and save her from the sort of the curse that comes with the responsibility of her family. The other heroines that you meet are Rika Greenwood, who is a Category 5 mage, which is technically, in the Da Capo universe, is the highest, most powerful type of mage you can be. She actually has a very long history, is a personal friend of the headmistress of the school that they attend, and is there. She's technically enrolled as a student, but she's there more to conduct her own research. And they go in. I don't want to spoil too much about Rika's past and her history and why she does what she does, because that is actually a key point of the drama that you read about in her individual route. But she's a very confident heroine who very much knows what she wants, and she is very caring. One of the second heroines is Charles Maroth. She is basically Santa Claus. She's actually descended from the family of mages that is responsible for the original Santa Claus myth and for maintaining the Santa Claus myth throughout the Da Capo universe. So her family is actually the ones that go around every Christmas Eve giving out presents through the use of their specific magic. Then you also have the heroine, Sarah Chrysalis. And Sarah is actually the heiress to a declining aristocratic family in London. So it's a family of nobles, a family of mages that has a very long line in history of actually serving the queen as mages and being important in the magic community. But throughout the past generations, the strength of their magic has been on the decline. And so Sarah herself actually has very little magic power left to her, and she struggles between basically her own powerlessness and her responsibility and her duty to try and revive and revitalize the family name. And there's a lot that happens in her route where she sort of comes into her own of learning what her magic specialty sort of is and how she can go about restoring her family. And then you have the unlockable heroine, Aoi, Hinamoto Aoi. she is technically not a heroine whose route you can access until you have played through the other 4 heroines' routes. Because Aoi's story is actually crucial to the overall drama and the overall problem facing the Da Capo 3 game as a whole. You see hints as to this overall problem when you play through Rika's route and Himeno's routes, more so than you do in Charles's and Sarah's route. But Aoi's route actually goes directly into the heart of the problem that's at the core center of the game.
So Aoi would basically be the canonical ending?
I don't
is that
want...
getting into spoilers?
That is getting into spoilers.
All right.
Yes.
Right then. So, exactly how is all the extra content from the other versions integrated into this? Like, does it start at like the beginning, or is it like after, say, one of the routes is completed?
So, the way the extra content is playable is through the Omake or extras menu. Once you've unlocked the content, you can access the extra menu when you open the game and select that extra story to play. There's one major arc that covers the months prior to the main common route in London. So that story covers Kiyotaka and Himeno's entrance into London. It starts from their arrival in London and follows those first 3 months where they're sort of getting introduced into the class, taking those first lessons, meeting the different characters, and settling into their life at school there in Weathervane, which is where the London chapter takes place. The main route picks up at the end of that extra chapters, essentially. So you have about basically a quarter of the school year is covered by that first extra chapter, which is in addition to the main chapter, which starts around November. And then you have 3 other extra side stories that are unlockable based on choices you make during the common route. Basically, if you spend enough time with 3 different side characters, be it Aoi, the headmistress Elizabeth, or one of the side characters, Tomoe, after you spent enough time with them through your choices in the common route, you unlock the extra side stories specific to them. Elizabeth and Tomoe's extra stories are fairly short episodes centered around those 2 characters, and Aoi's extra story is actually what would be considered your first attempt to go down Aoi's route before you actually reach the point where her route would take place. Sorry, it's a little... I'm trying not to spoil too much on this.
Understandable. Now, I noticed on the Steam page it boasts that this is an 80-hour visual novel. Is that in total, or...?
Yes, that's referring to the amount of time it would take to do a full clear, playing the game from start to end and all the extras.
That's what I figured, because I'm like, it being like just like from beginning to end sounded excessive even for a visual novel.
No, you have the 5 different character routes. Then you have also the true route that comes after Aoi's route. You have the extra episodes.
Right.
and that's all included in that estimate.
Right. So what are we talking about in terms of production values here?
There is. So one of the things about the Da Capo series is that it is very focused on, like I said before, that immersion. So, like you can sort of see on the Twitch stream now, you have a lot of effects where they do a lot of work with the sprites to help make you feel like you're actually participating. So you see the sprites from the side or from behind, or turning to look back at you, or positioned around you. And there's a lot of production value focused there in terms of the sprite work and making you feel like you're actually there with the heroines. That goes a little bit above and beyond what you see in a lot of other visual novels. In terms of, there's not a lot of very action-y scenes. There's not a lot of cut-ins or things like that in terms of production values that you see. Circus is also well known for their soundtrack. So there's a lot of value and effort placed into music. There's a lot of different vocal tracks that kick in. I actually translated the lyrics for all of the different songs that you hear in Da Capo, and some of them we were able to include in the game, for example, with the opening movies between the different chapters, and others simply because those songs play in the background while the text is advancing. We just sort of had to include as PDF within the game files. But all the lyrics are there for players to enjoy, because the music is an important part to the series.
Neat.
And then there's also a lot of different CGs throughout the game to unlock.
Right, and what about in terms of voice acting? Like, is this one of those with like professional voice actors?
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. I think I was explaining shortly before we had a chance to start the interview. The main heroine, Rika, is actually voiced by the voice actress who voices Honoka from the anime Love Live. One of the other voice actresses involved in this game has starred voicing characters from the Milky Holmes anime series. A couple of the others have been in hundreds of different eroge before. So there's a lot of invested in the voices and the voice actresses. So you have very good high quality voice acting in this game.
And like, how many characters are voiced here? Is it like all the heroines? Does the protagonist speak?
All the heroines and all the sub characters are voiced. The only characters that are not voiced are the mob characters. So, for example, a teacher that shows up in one scene and doesn't have a sprite is not voiced, or the random passerby that you talk to during one of the investigation scenes. They're not voiced, but all of the main heroines are voiced. All of the sub characters, like Kosuke, Shiki, Tsukinami, and Elizabeth and Tomoe, and so forth, they all have voice acting. So all the characters that you generally see more than once are voiced.
Right, now let's talk about your involvement in the Da Capo series. How did you get involved with the translation? Was it assigned to you? Did you pick the project?
So when I first started with MangaGamer, the original Da Capo had already been published, so I didn't get a chance to be involved in that. But Da Capo 2 was due to be out soon, and they needed someone to review the work on it. So I got my start on the Da Capo series, working on Da Capo 2, and basically having to rewrite a large portion of the text to retranslate a large portion of the text for Da Capo 2. So I consider Da Capo 2 one of the games that I worked to translate on. And then later on, so we knew, and Circus has always been sort of directly involved in our company from a top level as well. So we have very close ties and strong connections with them. So we knew we wanted to work on more of the Da Capo series with them. When Da Capo 3 first came out, we were waiting to handle it because the Da Capo series has a history of releasing expansions after it's been released. And we wanted to wait until we had a definitive version to work on. And so when we did, we eventually, there's a couple of things that led to us acquiring it, but once we did, I basically got assigned to it because I was one of the ones that pushed for us to acquire the game for the different reasons. Because we wanted to make sure, one of the reasons was that we wanted to make sure that no one else was working on the franchise. At the time, there was actually someone who thought it was a bright idea to try and fan translate the game, even though they knew we'd worked on the series before and would be continuing to work on the series. So we couldn't really let that stand. And that's one of the reasons why we sort of looked at it a little sooner than we might have. But ultimately, once we grabbed the title, I ended up working on it, and there were a couple times where my boss offered to assign someone else to it, but at that point I was already so far through the game that I was worried about the consistency faltering if we started adding too many people to the pot.
And so how many people worked on the translating Da Capo 3?
Me, my editor, and our programmer, and then our beta testers.
And so how did that structure work?
Basically, it worked not quite like a production line. As the translator, I was the first one working on it, so I would be going through and translating all the lines or any of the visuals that needed image editing. I'm sorry, I forgot that we also had an image editor working on the game as well to edit the UI and the aspects that needed translation on the visual center. But so I would go in first and be dealing with the text, and then the editor would come in behind me. On this particular project, we had a bunch of different delays, and I didn't really get an editor working with me until after I was a year into the project. So he had a lot of text to catch up on when he first started with us. But once he caught up, our exchanges were much more back and forth, where I'd finish a script and he'd get to work on the script, and then we'd go over the changes he'd made and then sort of send those off as approved to the programmer to start integrating. And then once we had a final release candidate ready, that went on to the beta testers. And the beta testers would check this for bugs, typos, or mistakes that managed to get through the process, and then we'd correct those, and that's how we got to the final build.
Right, and how hard was it to localize this game? A sheer amount of text aside, like tailoring it to Western audiences and all that.
So, in terms of textual difficulty, as a moe game, as a romantic sort of slice of life game, the text is actually not that challenging. It's very much centered around casual conversational language. And so on that aspect, the hardest parts of translation is more how do you render the set phrases that are common in Japanese that we just don't use in English. So, and that's compared, but on the other hand, you say like the project I'm working on now, Maggot Baits, that actually has a very high degree of text difficulty. There's a lot of language, a lot of grammar used that's on a much more advanced level and requires a different, stronger vocabulary in order to work with. But so the challenge with Da Capo 3 very much was the sheer length and the sheer amount of text to be translated. I've compared it to a marathon before, and it's like in terms of translation, working on, say, an article is like a 50-meter dash. Working on an anime is more like a 100 or 150-meter dash. It's something you can complete within a few hours, get your satisfaction, and leave it be done. The standard visual novel, or your standard full-length visual novel, that's about 800,000 characters long, or about 400,000 words, that you're looking more at, that's more of a marathon. You're looking at really 6 to 8 months worth of work ahead of you. And so you have to pace yourself. You have to manage your time outside of work, and you don't really get that project complete satisfaction until you've been working on it for 8 months. So you have to find your own drive and your own reason for getting through it. And so when it comes to a game like Da Capo 3, which is nearly 3 times that length, it's like Olympic marathon and triathlon don't even begin to compare, to give a good example of just how much longer it is in terms of translation. And it's very mentally fatiguing. It's very exhausting, because you really don't have any sense of completion until you're years in. And it is very much a struggle to sort of face that idea of, I have been working on this project for 8 months. I have been working on this project for a year, and it is still not done. It is still not finished. There is still over half of this thing left to go. I'm not even past the halfway point, and I've already put a year of my life into this project.
Does it ever get hard to remember some particular choices you made in translating, and you have to like go back over stuff you already done to double check things, or?
Honestly, that's kind of one of the skills that most translators develop early on, is that skill to either remember it or to create your own sort of terms sheet where you have a place where you keep track of all that and note all that. That's usually one of the things that I do when I work on a project. Typically, I'll play through the game first before I ever start translating a word, so that I can pick out what those words are and give some thought within context of the entire game as to how they're translated and how they need to be translated in order to preserve the foreshadowing and the way the game uses and builds on those different words and terms and phrases. And so that's just sort of one of the habits and skills that translators should develop early on in their career. And if they don't, it's something that translators need to be encouraged to develop very early on.
I suppose the question that beckons is, how do you feel now that the experience is behind you?
Very good. It's definitely sort of a mark of pride to be able to say that I managed to complete a game of this length on my own. It's definitely very satisfying to know that I did it, that I succeeded, that it's done, that it's accomplished. And it's when it was first released, I was obviously incredibly anxious and nervous and hoping that the game would receive good reception, because I wanted this is a game that I spent literally over 2 years of my life working on, and I wanted people to enjoy it, and I was worried about whether or not fans either of our site or fans on Steam would enjoy the game. So it's very reassuring to see all the positive reviews that have been coming out for the game, and all the positive reaction from support from fans who finally getting a chance to play this. It's very reassuring, and definitely sort of reaffirms how glad I am to have worked on it, even if I would never have said that a year ago when I was in the middle of the muck.
Right, and how has the reception been for Decapo 3? Have you gotten any feedback yet?
Lots and lots and lots of positive reviews. Everyone that I have heard from has been enjoying it. Almost all of the reviews on Steam are positive. I think the only negative reviews I've seen so far on Steam tend to be from people who couldn't sit through the prologue and just sort of found it dull to them. But not everyone likes slice of life, so that's fine. But those who have stuck with it and sort of played through it, the reaction has definitely been very positive and extremely positive.
Right, and Decapo 3R is the only one of these on Steam right now. Is there a chance we might see the other two on that platform in the future?
I don't know at the moment if we'll ever port Decapo 1 or Decapo 2 to Steam, but we are looking at the possibility of releasing Dalsegno on Steam. And Dalsegno is the spiritual successor to the Decapo series that we announced last Anime Expo.
Which is a related music term.
Yes.
Dalsegno, go back to the marked area and then go to the coda after that.
Mm-hmm. And Dalsegno actually takes place in the Decapo universe. So, but it is a new series of its own with its own themes that it's going to explore about paradise and happiness.
Indeed. And I suppose before we conclude, we should ask a bit about what else MangaGamer has published recently and is upcoming.
So our main release for January has been Decapo 3, and we've been trying to push that a lot, and we're very grateful to see such good reception to it. For February, we have planned The Shadows of Pygmalion by Propeller, which is a Yuri action game. That's an all-ages title, so you're going to see that on our website and on Steam this month. At the end of this month, February 24th is when it comes out. We're also looking at hosting a sale on our website at the end of this week, I think. So listeners might want to pay attention to our website and keep their eyes peeled if they're interested in getting discounts on the games we've released recently. In March, we are looking at a couple different titles. We might be releasing the first chapter of Kuroino, and we're also looking at getting the 5th chapter of Higurashi out fairly soon. Following that, we have one title that we haven't announced yet, and then later this year we're looking at releasing probably Imoto Paradise 2, the rest of the Higurashi Answer arcs, and several other titles as well. We are hoping to have the sequel fan disc to Princess Evangile out this year, which I know fans have been waiting with bated breath for. That might be more of a summer release.
So yeah, it sounds like you've got a lot in the pipeline.
Yes.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely have you back on the show, say May 3rd, talk about some of that stuff.
Sounds excellent.
All right. Well, until next time, thank you as always for joining us on the program, and
thank you for having me. And I hope if any listeners want to keep their ears out and stay tuned what we're up to at MangaGamer, you can follow us on Twitter, you can follow us on Facebook, and obviously our website is MangaGamer.com. So definitely check us out this weekend if you have a chance. You'll probably be able to find some nice discounts and some stuff.
All right. Pettyfin, if you can, take us to the next segment. Sorry, he's apparently been having some Skype problems this episode. All right.
Okay, so we should have had music. We'll see if
Yes.
we did or not.
We had it. It worked.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, I'm not listening to the.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I'm not listening to the streaming audio because got the Skype audio here.
Yeah.
Anyway, so welcome to the topic of discussion. They are talking about Digimon World 1 for PlayStation. I have never played this game, so I have nothing to speak about here. So have at it, guys.
Okay, so many years ago, Digimon World 1 burst onto the scene. It is actually kind of an interesting little JRPG. Because it's not...
Yeah, it's actually it's worth mentioning exactly how far back this is, because I think probably most of the people who are here would probably know Digimon had an anime and stuff, and that it had video games after the anime and stuff. But before the anime, Digimon was virtual pets.
Well,
And when Digimon World was created, that was all there was the first few virtual pets. Literally Mega Level Digimon, which is the highest level, hadn't even been invented yet.
Well, you should also mention that there have been several anime at this point.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, it had the original anime, and then they made anime after that.
Right.
Yeah, for those of you wondering, Digimon World came out January 29th, 1999. Or 28th, rather. So yeah, over 18 years ago at this point.
So yeah, there are some Digimon even from early in the anime that aren't in the game or aren't in the game as playable because they basically hadn't been in any of the virtual pets or even in some cases even fully been created yet. Because the Digimon that are available to the player in this game, on the player side, this is more or less the first 4 or 5 Digimon virtual pets with a few things removed and a few things added, and a bunch of crossover evolutions. And then with that as your partner, you get to do the RPG story.
Yeah. Which basically consists of you're a human, you got dumped into the digital world, and you need to go find Digimon to bring to the city to make the city
apparently
better.
the Digimon are going feral or something that used to live in the city, and you have to go out and bring them back so you can save the island.
Well, the reason why they're going feral is plot spoilers, so I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
But yeah. And we kind of touched on this a little bit, but this isn't your regular turn-based RPG or something like that. The Digimon can act on its own.
Yeah,
You can
you give them,
suggest it to attack, defend, and whatnot.
but it kind of does its own thing, unless you max out its intelligence stat, at which point you can tell it what specific techniques to use.
Correct.
Although then at that point you have the issue of the fact that learning techniques is also a little bit weird, because you have to basically each Digimon has certain moves that it can learn, and then in order to learn those, except for a few that you learn automatically, you have to get hit by the attack when used by one of the enemies that actually uses it, which certainly means that there are some moves that are very difficult to get. And because it's a virtual pet, one of the interesting things about the Digimon World games that the Digimon World proper games are mostly the Digimon World 1 and then redigitize and then next order. A lot of the other Digimon games are not actually Digimon World games.
Well, they are. They just don't follow after the same gameplay as the original world.
Right, but since this is very virtual pet-like, your Digimon partner has a certain lifespan, and after a certain amount of time, they will die and leave behind an egg, or if they don't leave behind an egg, I think you get another one somehow. And you have to start over.
From what I remember, they always bring back an egg. It's just how you took care of it depends on the stats the eggs get.
Right, and I'm trying to remember how you get the ones with eggs with different babies.
Yeah, that one I don't remember.
Neither do I.
Because there are like 4 babies, and there are like 9 rookies.
Yeah.
And each baby can only evolve into like 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah. But I think it's similar, like, it has to do with how you take care of the Digimon.
Yeah, so
like if you were a total jackass, you'll get 1 egg and baby, where if you were really good to it, you'll get a different one.
Yeah, so they do get stronger if you've had a good Digimon and then it leaves behind an egg. That egg will be stronger, but you do every so often in the game basically have to start over raising from the beginning. Which is also important because you only have 1 Digimon partner, and there are some areas of the island that you can only get to with a Digimon partner who is Data or Vaccine or Virus. And while it's possible to have a Digimon evolve from Data to Vaccine to Virus or whatever, it's hard to control and not ideal, and some of those areas you probably don't want to go to with a child Digimon, because Agumon's life expectancy will not be good in a high-end area that only allows Vaccine Digimon.
In this game, if your Digimon dies enough, they will just straight up die. But in later games, they'll just get knocked out and you go to the town, and in Redigitize it counts as a fault, but in Next Order it doesn't look like it. You know, it's a fault or anything like that. It's just, oh well, try again.
And faults are things that count against your evolution score, basically, because you evolve into different things depending on how many times you let the Digimon poop itself without getting to a toilet in time, because you have to carry around porta potties, or how much it eats, or how many times it wins. Thankfully, you don't have to worry about things like leaving the lights on at night, but yeah, it's certainly an interesting thing to have a virtual pet style thing and then run through it. And there are some interesting things in the world, like to make it potentially easier for beginning players or to do special things later on. There are areas where there is a special item or something that you could use to automatically digivolve your Digimon to a certain form.
Yeah.
So you don't always have to, like normally to get a Manzaimon, you have to raise your rookie really, really badly so that it evolves into a Numamon, the poop-throwing slug. And then you have to do really, really well with the Numamon. But also in Toy Town, I think there's a stuffed Manzaimon suit that you can just have your Numamon climb inside, and then it'll turn into a Manzaimon automatically.
Yeah.
Yeah, so ultimately, Obviously, the series didn't always stick with this kind of mechanics, but I do think this is a pretty interesting style of the game, and I'm kind of glad they went back to it for redigitizing Next Order.
Yeah, this is like one of those interesting when they're really experimenting with RPGs back in the day. Because it wasn't very often where you would casually give suggestions to the person you're controlling. It's, you do this, you have to do this.
Mm-hmm. And there are parts of it that, haven't aged all that well. Mm-hmm. And honestly, that's one of them. But
there isn't really that good of a Digivolution guide. Like, it just says, oh, you can go from this to this in the settings menu. It doesn't tell you how you got there.
Yeah, I remember back when the game came out that I looked at, like, the player's guide in GameStop and stuff, and there was, like, 6 pages of evolution stuff. And there are some weird things. Like, I think to get Devimon, you have to get Angemon and then do something special to it, or else it's the other way around. This game also was one of the first places where one of the things that's become fairly common in Digimon happened, which is it's the origin of a lot of recolored Digimon, because, it's a PlayStation 1 game. So it has a lot more room for skins than it does for models. In this game, mostly the recolors are only enemies and aren't recruitable, and you can't get them to come and join your town, and you can't evolve into them. But they've kind of helped fill out some of the stuff in the series going forward.
Yeah, like you can actually get some of the recolors and redigitize in Next Order.
Yeah.
Like, for a little while, I had that purple Patamon clone.
Who is a virus, yeah. Tsukaimon. Its name is a pun on the word for the familiar demon.
But yeah, and that one is what now can digivolve into Devimon. Or at least one of the ways you can get into Devimon.
Yeah. Because I'm not sure Devimon had been invented yet. I'm pretty sure he was originally from the Pendulum, so he might not be.
I don't remember exactly. But yeah. Like, how many Digimon were here? I have the Digimon list in front of me. There were 8 babies, 9 rookies,
and the 8 babies is 4 sets of 2, right?
2 sets of 4.
It's 4 lines of babies, because Botamon and Koromon, then Punimon and Tsunomon, and then Urimon and Tanamon, and then I forget what the other one is. Oh, Poyomon and Tokomon.
Yeah. And yeah, this one, most of the Digimon are champions because, yeah, Ultimates, they're basically the
you have to get your champion. First off, Ultimate is the final stage in this game, and there are a few Digimon that are actually megas. Phoenixmon is in the game. Hercules Kabutarimon is in the game. Machinedramon is in the game, but you can't get it. But they're treated as ultimates here.
And also, one thing to note is the orange Metal Greymon actually isn't in this one. It's blue Metal Greymon.
Yeah, orange Metal Greymon, who is Vaccine, was not invented until pretty late in the Pendulum series, or in the anime or something, I think.
I think he was made for the anime.
Yeah, originally Metal Greymon was blue and was a virus type.
Yeah. And, like, there weren't any, like, DNA Digivolves or anything like that. It was just Ultimate and done. And this game does have a day and night cycle where every day is essentially a year, and after a certain number of days go by, even your ultimate Digimon will drop dead and you have to start over. There's no real way for, like, oh, you made it to ultimate, it's going to stay in ultimate forever.
Yeah, and lifespans are a different. You also can't reverse Digivolve generally in this. The Digimon story games, which are more narrative based, have much more evolving up and down and unlocking different forms with all your partners.
Yeah. Like in Story Cyber Sleuth, I think I have a complete Digidex.
And I forget, like, Digimon World 2 and 3 are very different style of games. I don't remember how they... I believe 3 was more like story, and your partners don't die, and you can devolve them and revolve them.
Yeah, like, I know 2 is a dungeon crawler. But yeah, I don't remember anything about 3. That's... A lot of people consider that to be the black sheep of the World Series. Because it didn't really do much. No, 3.
I see a lot of fans of some of the lines from 3, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, 3 is where most of the 0-2 Digimon ended up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's where you had a lot of DNA digivolving and stuff like that.
It also features some of the 4th season Digimon as well. Kind of a preview sort of thing.
Yeah, because that one, I'm looking at some of the pictures for it, and it had Guilmon and Agumon on it.
Yeah, and then Digimon World X, which was localized as Digimon World 4, was an action RPG where you have a choice of 4 Digimon and they all get swords because, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, and like we said, the World Series kind of reset to the beginning with redigitized decode, which
actually they feature the main character of the Digimon World games, I think, as the first Digimon World game, rather, as an ally/rival type thing.
As far as I know, I'm in the 2nd chapter. He's just an ally. But his partner is also currently locked in the egg.
Mm-hmm.
Because of reasons that I'm not going into.
Yeah, some of the promo art of him had him with Mugendramon, Machinedramon, who is usually not a good guy, but then this is also the character that usually has a Virus Metal Greymon and has no problem being a good guy, so...
But yeah... I've seen that picture, and after playing the games, oh god, they got away with some crap. Because that is spoilers on why that happens.
Ah, okay. Well, it's not super spoilers because there's no context, but I get what you mean.
But yeah. After being to that part in the story, it's like, oh, they should not have done this. This was a bad. But yeah, and... like, I don't believe we got redigitized in the West, either one of them. Like, I've seen some fan translations of them, but I don't think they've actually got officially localized.
Yeah, I think I imported, like, the 3DS one because I have a Japanese 3DS, but I haven't had much chance to play it.
But yeah, and from what I can tell about Next Order is they basically lifted most of the mechanics from Next Order, just you have 2 Digimon, or from redigitized to Next Order, you just have
because Next Order does feature in many plot-relevant ways DNA evolution. What with featuring someone with an Omnimon/Omegamon as an important character and stuff.
Oh wow, I'm looking at some of the evolutions for 3, and oh boy, they messed with stuff.
Well, 3 was the one that had Bearmon evolving through Grismon, then to Grapleomon and Marsmon, and it had Koemon, the monkey Mon too. Basically, it had a brawling line, a shooting line, and I don't know, what do you call the other one?
I have no idea.
It's been forever since I've played 3.
A brawling line, a shooting line, and a sword line.
But yeah, like, they have Agumon being able to go all the way up to Imperial Dramon Paladin mode. So yeah, somebody messed with something.
Well, Digimon as a franchise, in everything except for the anime and some of the most anime-based games, the evolution is very free and based on how stuff happens, which goes back to the fact that the franchise is originally virtual pets. I mean, there are some lines that are obviously more similar in design or look better together, but
Yeah. Like, this is one of the reasons why later on, now that, you know, an Agumon has the Greymon line, where in
Mhm.
some of the earlier games, I believe he didn't. At least
I think
until the anime.
Agumon always has Greymon, although it's not always his primary one. It's usually like his best line. But for example, originally Skull Greymon evolved from like Kabuterimon or something. And Garurumon, there was no Where Garurumon.
Right.
So it was like Gabumon, Garurumon, and then like it could evolve into Metal Mamemon, or like I think he might have also been able to evolve into Skull Greymon.
Yeah.
If you ever played with the and I know I'm really dating myself here, if you ever played with the Digimon card game for the short amount of time that was out in the US, the early sets of that had evolutionary lines mostly taken from the early V pets and stuff. So you get stuff like that.
Well, and I think like some of the early runs of Digimon World came with some cards.
Yeah, there was a promo card for the Virus Metal Greymon and a few other ones.
Yeah. Because
most for the entire duration of the card game in Japan, most Digimon video games came with cards.
Yeah. Because at the time, because when the V-Pets were doing well, they were thinking, let's make this into a multimedia franchise. And they did.
Well, that's basically what the Digimon franchise is. It's V-Pets that had a little bit more of an interesting dynamic than Tamagotchi, since you know they like fought and stuff instead of just having houses.
Yeah, I believe wasn't Tamagotchi is originally targeted towards ladies and Digimon towards males.
Digimon was introduced as a more boy-oriented Tamagotchi, yes. But yeah, because the characters are more different and they have the dynamic of fighting, I guess, Digimon kind of took off and became a much bigger franchise.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, some of the charm in the early designs doesn't carry through as much to some of the more recent stuff. But I think overall it's actually held up better than I think a lot of people who are fans say it has.
Yeah. Like, Digimon World 1 has its quirks, but it's still a pretty alright game, and if you get a chance to look at it, do.
Yes.
Like, especially if you're a fan of the Digimon franchise, it's worth a look at. So, anything else we want to say on this topic?
I think I pretty much covered most of what I have to say about it.
Twilight?
Franchise overall, I really enjoyed. You know, I've only played like a few of the world games. But yeah. Something I have to get back into.
Oh, yeah. Like, if I still had a copy of the original world, I'd bust out my PS3 and play it.
Mine's hidden around here somewhere. Not sure where.
Well, mine I borrowed from a friend, so I'm gonna have to go buy it.
I never had a PlayStation, so I never got to play the original ones.
Well, they're cheap online.
Well, I still don't have a PlayStation.
Well, you can get a PlayStation pretty cheap, but that's
true.
a story for another time.
Yeah, and the only Digimon game on Steam is an MMO, which I'm not really in the market for MMOs.
I don't think the servers are even still up for that.
Although it would be weird that they're still selling it if there are no servers.
I think it's free, and I don't think they've, told Steam to delist it yet, but I could be wrong. I'll go look
Yeah,
at
it
it
is.
someday.
It is free to start.
Anyway, I think we're done with this one. So, Adam, what we got coming up next?
Huh? Well, I mean, what we got coming up next is MSP.
Assuming Mac doesn't change his mind.
Doesn't look like he's going to change his mind, especially since, his Kickstarter camp or Indiegogo. I think it's.
Yes, that starts next week, doesn't it?
Yeah. So.
Also, he has some ranting to do.
Not necessarily. Apparently, the deal isn't completely dead.
Ah.
You might have missed that note.
Yeah, so he might not be ranting about it because if he does, then the deal would be dead.
Yes. It's like, but yeah, he's got a lot. He's got a lot of updates, including something that might affect this show. Like, it might lead to our first, how do you say, joint session of MSP and Fragments.
Interesting.
It's like, by the way, if that happens, it would be streaming both on YouTube and Twitch.
Yeah.
So, what I proposed was, Petty Fan, you would handle one, and Twilight would handle the other.
I'd probably doing YouTube since I have that one.
Yeah. That's what I said. You do YouTube. Twilight's been trained to handle the Twitch stream. You just give him the overlays.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to look at his overlay, but yeah, I think we have it sorted out.
But yeah, it's like, we are prepared for this.
We have the technology.
Well, it's like, I'm really glad we did all that stuff. So, forward thinking pays off.
Indeed.
Anyway, so that's what's going on in MSP. On the Sunday reviews, this week we are reviewing Owlboy. You may have heard of this one. It's it's a 2D. I hesitate to call it a platformer. I guess it's technically a platformer, but here's the thing: you can fly anywhere, and there's not a lot of platforming to be done. So maybe more a 2D action game. Anyway,
the platforms are still important. It's just that you're not always tied to them.
No, like you do a bit of platforming, but I'm like, it's like calling, say, Kirby Canvas Curse a platformer. You may be technically right, but it's not really inductive of what the game actually is.
True.
It's like, we'll talk about that more on Sunday. And we've also got a game called Ellipses. This is a avoid 'em up. And as the name suggests, it's a game where you are avoiding various objects while you're collecting the 5 tokens in each level. Like, it's a bit hard to explain with words, but if you see footage of it, you'll get it instantly, kind of deal.
Spoilers: we're gonna have footage Sunday.
Yeah, it's like, we'll have footage of Ellipses because Petty Fan has that. Owlboy, he'd have to buy on his own.
Yeah, and I don't have the funds for that, so.
Well, yeah, Owlboy's actually. Yeah, it's like, Owlboy is $25, so.
I got that when it came out because it looked like it was worth it, and I saw like Jim Sterling's review of it and a couple other ones.
Yeah, well, we'll have our own review this Sunday because even though the game's a few months old, we are interviewing D-Pad D-Pad Studio in a few weeks. So, they were one of those devs who were really busy when the game was coming out for obvious reasons, but now that it's the release has died down, we can talk to them. It happens every now and again. And next week, we're slated to have 2 interviews, but I have yet to hear back from one of the participants.
Again, con season.
Yeah, it's like, we'll see what happens there. Like, you don't have to tell me about con season.
We could have another topic rant on that and just let you go.
There's not really much to go on.
Well, I know. I'm just being facetious.
Yeah, it's like, I guess it'd be better if I had the money or the resources to travel to all this shit. I mean, I live away from everything.
Yeah, same.
Same.
Yeah, it's like. So,
I live a little bit close to Boston, but I also don't like crowds at all.
Yeah, it's like you could potentially go to PAX East, but outside of that, like, nobody here is going to fucking GDC anytime soon.
Yeah.
Like,
Unless we each win the lottery.
yeah. Or, you know, things change with our general, you know, company, I guess, or, you know, like Mac becomes successful in his creative endeavors and, you know, manages to move to Hollywood or something.
Yeah. Hey, yo,
Yeah.
Sugar Daddy, can we go to some cons?
Yeah, you know, that kind of shit. Anyway, getting back to the topic at hand, on Tuesday, we're supposed to have Jeffrey Zukowski, Zukowski, you know,
Zukowski, probably.
yeah, Zukowski. Yeah, it's like Polish names I have trouble with. Anyway, he's from Throwback Entertainment. This was set up alongside the Gladiator game we reviewed a few weeks ago. He's the guy I haven't heard from yet. So we'll see if that's still a thing that's happening next week. If not, so it goes. You know, I'm like, you know, it's like, but on February 15th, we will be having David Oshry of New Bloods Interactive on the program. So for those who don't know who David Oshry is, he's one of the true characters of the video game industry, to say the least. You know, it's like, and he's been on the show before, but that was way back in 2013, 2014. It was like,
I think
he
it was
was with the
2013, because I don't believe I was on the show when he was.
Yeah, I'm like, it was really early in the show's run. He was with a different company back then. But anyway, we'll be talking about the retro-styled FPS Stray.
Ooh.
This is one I've been looking forward to because it's the nostalgia factor only in FPS form. Like, it's, you know, it's harkening back to the 90s FPS of old.
I like
You know,
a good 90s FPS.
Yeah, so do I. So we'll be talking about that next week. And until MSP, I wish you good gaming.